that you have been doing, and continue to cover this council. In Jesus' name, amen.
Clerk, roll call.
Alexander.
Present.
Vitale.
Here.
Venez.
Here.
Galwinski. Torres.
Here.
Tyler. Emerson.
Here.
Warple.
Here.
Rakels.
Here. We have 8 present. I thought we might have one on Zoom here electronically. Here's not right now. So we have eight present.
There he is.
He's there.
Councilman Tyler, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay. We have 8 here in chambers and 1 present electronically. Next up, the mayor's address.
Good evening, Mr. President and Council. Mayor's out of town, so he asked me to fill in for him. Quickly, just because this happened to be yesterday, I just want to congratulate the Tree of Life Church, who bought property at 7105 Holman Avenue. They had their ribbon cutting yesterday. I was there with Councilwoman Alexander. It was a very nice event, very passionate folks over there. And anyhow, I just want to say congratulations to Pastor Boone and everybody and thank them for investing in Hammond. And hopefully it becomes a great community gathering place in that part of the city. 219 Day was a success. I don't know how many of you were able to make it, but great turnout. All the feedback was great. And one of the things I thought was really interesting was looking at the registrations. A lot of people were from South Lake County. So you got a lot of people that maybe used to live here, used to be in this area, and they always come back for this event. So thanks for everybody that participated and helped out with that event. It was great. The Clark Fields parcels will be up for auction in May. As you may recall, there's 37 parcels. We just want to get the word out there now. Obviously, we want to have as many bidders on the parcels as possible to make sure we're getting the most money possible for those for that piece of land, which we think is valuable, and I think a lot of people are going to be excited to potentially build a home in that area. So again, it's going to be May. We don't have the exact date yet, but if you talk to folks, especially Councilman Spitali in the real estate world, I know you talk to a lot of people. We'd love to have great turnout for that auction. Hopefully do as well as we can. Dean Button gave an update this morning that Kennedy Avenue they're going to be moving over to the west side of Kennedy and closing down that side of it. Obviously, when the east side was closed down, there were quite a few business people that were concerned of how long, and when you're going through a process like this, there's really no way around inconveniencing some people. But I know they're going to try and do the best they can to make sure there's access to the businesses. But again, they are going to block off the west side of the property coming up shortly to get that side done. And that's good. It means it's on the second half of the project, and hopefully it'll be done sooner than later. On Wednesday, March 1st at 9 o'clock a.m., United Hospital Services will be having an open house. This is the business that is located in the West Point property. I believe the address is 1335 Hewen. You're all welcome to come by and check out the new facility. I would say that it finalizes the property that was available there for development. However, there's a lot of conversation now about whether the 14 acres that's right off of Columbia, just west of this United Hospital Services property, could potentially be redeveloped, because we're always looking for industrial sites. And then to the south of UHS is the Crown property, which is, I think, better known as Link, the Walmart distribution center. And they have about 30 acres that's still able to be developed. It's been sitting there for quite a while. They own it, so we don't have control over it. But this is one of the areas in the city where potentially there could be property available for a nice larger tenant in the future. I also, on a side note, want to mention that we have quite a few positions where we need CDL drivers. And I know this isn't just us. I know it's across the country that folks are looking for people with their CDL license. If you know of anybody, if anybody watching or listening knows somebody that's looking for a job that has their CDL, please contact us. We have quite a few jobs open, and you know, I think the city of Hammond's a great place to work for, and we have great benefits. So please reach out. Lastly, and in this case probably the most important, I want to talk a little bit about our staff changes in planning and development. For those of you that aren't aware, Africa Tarver gave her notice. She's going to be moving away to be by her daughter, as I understand it. She has another job, which we're excited for her. I'll get back to that in just one second. With that change, Ann Anderson has been promoted to Executive Director of Planning and Development, so she'll be taking over for Africa Tarver. And Juan Moreno will be promoted to Director of Economic Development. So that leaves Juan's old position available. I think a posting is out. I believe we can call it the TIF coordinator position, but it's a role in economic development that's very important. I know Ann and Juan are going to be looking for somebody very good to fill that role. Most importantly, I want to congratulate Africa for the years that she has given to the city, the many, many years, where she has had a respected reputation throughout Lake County and beyond. She's been a leader. She's been a part of so many projects in the city of Hammond that it would be impossible to create a list. And I know all of you have worked with her, and she's been nothing but the most professional person that she could be. And I just want to congratulate her on her next adventure. I know she's going to do great. I know Texas is going to be excited to have her. And a side note of that, Africa was our RDA representative. So in the interim, I'm going to be filling in for her again. I served on the RDA board before, so I'll be doing it again for probably a short period of time until we find a permanent replacement. And with that, I'll be happy to take any questions that anybody might have.
Phil,
Yes.
you talk about the Clark property, and I've been getting a question about the Gabbett property. Is there any updates on that, on what might happen there, or is it still under that dollar thing, or?
Yeah, I think, as I understand it, and probably an attorney could answer better, but unfortunately, the school city lost that court case, and I think it's under appeal. I'm sure Scott Miller could answer that. But so what it basically says, and this is a crude version of it, is that when they're going to sell property, that they have to offer it to other schools for $1 first, prior to, for example, offering it to the city of Hammond, where we could potentially redevelop it. So it's kind of disappointing that the court ruled in that direction. I think the school city is still kind of figuring out what their next steps are. I think they might be appealing, but I can't say that 100%. But until, something, either the court changes their opinion or, they eventually offer it and nobody offers to purchase it, it's kind of not available at the moment.
I guess the question that is to put into context to me, with Little League starting, there's always a need for practice fields. And if somebody wanted to try to practice over there, would they contact the school city?
I believe so. I think, and I'm pretty sure Superintendent Miller would let us, use that, unless there's a liability issue that I wouldn't be aware of. But I'm sure they'd be happy to allow us to use that. And you're right, because there's definitely more demand than there is supply when it comes to that.
Yeah. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thanks, Councilman Werfel.
Council.
Good point. We'll definitely look to see if there was anything that was formalized in an agreement. And so I'm assuming the concern is from residents in that area, maybe wanting to keep it wooded. We could certainly you know, there's a lot of conversation to have about this before anything would ever go forward. So that, but your point is taken.
I'll drive through there, again, that back road, or whatever we want to call it, and at dusk, last week, I saw 8 deer foraging off the road and brush. It's a lot of wildlife there.
Okay, good, no, good point. I mean, there's that 30 acres that Crown is sitting on. It's right next to Link, so it's inside, not the acreage you're speaking about. There's no trees on this acreage that I'm speaking of. This is just flat ground. That property certainly is primed to be developed, and I know if either Africa or Ann were up here talking to you, they'd say they get so many inquiries about large tracts of land, and that's why we can't bring in some of the companies that we'd like to, because we just don't have the space. So I think that 30 acres is certainly an ideal piece of property for us to be talking to Crown to potentially redevelop. You're welcome.
Anyone else?
Mr. President,
Councilman Tyler.
I first want to just congratulate Africa and Juan all in these life changes. I know economic development works very hard to bring new businesses to our city and to support others. So just want to congratulate all three of them. And just, like Phil said, a special congratulations to Africa. I know I worked with her a lot one-on-one over the past few years, and she's been a joy to work with and has taught me a lot. So sad to see her go, but excited for her future and, of course, the future of our city. Phil, I do have one question. I know that a couple months ago, once we saw a lot of the posts in terms of the CDL positions go up, we got a lot of feedback from our community in terms of the pay being lower than what a lot of other companies were averaging. And even when you look at other states and municipalities, it seemed to be a bit low. Have we looked into raising that pay scale a bit?
Great question. So at Mayor Tom's direction, he asked us to bring in an outside group to do an analysis on our pay. And not just for, say, Teamsters or folks that are CDL drivers, but also for police and fire. It's one thing for, you know, us to make decisions on what somebody should get paid. It's another thing to maybe have an outside group take a look at it as well. So at Mayor Tom's direction, we are we have not identified the group yet, but we are close to identifying a group that's going to help us make sure that we're competitive, and that, you know, isn't the reason that we have a number of positions available. So, you know, I would say Mayor agrees, Councilman Tyler, and we're definitely pursuing that.
All right, thank you, Phil.
You're welcome. And can I also mention, Mr. President, Wednesday there is a potluck. Not sure exactly what time for Africa in the mayor's office. So please, if you're not working, you can come by, wish her well. I know she'd really appreciate that.
All right, anybody else? Thank you.
Thank you.
Next up, number 4, approval of minutes.
President,
Councilman Spitali.
accept the minutes for February 13, 2023 be placed on file.
Second. Motion and a second by Councilman Emerson. Any discussion? Any discussion? Discussion, all in favor? Aye. Aye. All opposed? Yes. Next up, approval of claims.
Mr. President,
Councilwoman Vines.
yes, I move for passage of claims beginning with claims dated 2/14 of '23 and ending with claims dated 2/22 of '23, claim number 965 through 1295 inclusive, in the amount of $15,595,467.06. I so move.
Second.
A motion by Councilwoman Vines, second by Councilman Spitali for approval of claims. Is there any discussion? Any discussion? Any discussion? Roll call.
Alexander.
Yes.
Spitali.
Yes.
Vines.
Yes.
Galwinski. Torres.
Yes.
Tyler.
Yes.
Emerson.
Yes.
Warple.
Yes.
Rakels.
Yes. Passes 9-0. Next up, public hearings.
Item A, ordinance 23-03, sponsored by Councilwoman Venez. An ordinance to appropriate funds from the operating balance for the Hammond Park Department. All of them at one time?
No, go ahead and read them all at one time.
Item B, ordinance 23-04, sponsored by Councilman Tyler. An ordinance creating fund number 2474 and to appropriate funds within the Parks Department for the Harrison Park Restoration Project grant. Item C, ordinance 23-05, sponsored by Councilwoman Venez. An ordinance to appropriate funds in the hotel, motel, innkeeper's tax fund for the Hammond Park Department. Item D, ordinance number 23-06, sponsored by Councilman Kalwinski. An ordinance vacating an approximately 1,242-foot portion of the street in the 2800 blocks of Eggers Avenue and Elder Avenue, and approximately 488 portion of street in the 1400 block of 127th and 128th streets, and approximately 1242 portion of a north-south alley in the 2800 blocks between Eggers and Elder Avenues in the city of Hammond, Lake County, Indiana.
Okay, we now have open public hearings for any of these four ordinances for anybody in the public who would like to speak on these four ordinances. Anybody here that would like to speak on 2303, 04, 05, and 06? Here? Okay. Public hearings are now closed. Next up, communications. Anybody have any communications?
Mr. President,
Councilwoman.
the scholarship is available, our scholarship is available to our Hammond students. They can pick up an application with their guidance counselors. It's going to be available up until March 31st. Also, it is going to be awarded on April 24th, with them being, we'll select the winners on April 24th. And on May 22nd is when we'll have those students come in to receive their certificates. If they have questions, they should see their guidance counselors. We encourage each student to apply. We will be giving away 15 $1,000 scholarships this year. Looking forward to that. Also, Prom Genie is doing a dress giveaway. This is for our high school seniors and juniors that are going to prom and they need dresses. It'll be Saturday, March 25th from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. It'll be free dresses, shoes, jewelry, makeup and hair consultations, as well as giveaways. It will be held at the Jean Shepherd. They must be a student with a current ID for the 2022-2023 school year. Thank you.
Alexander, any other communications? Councilman Kowinski.
Thank you, Mr. President. A reminder that the Hammond Mohawks again will be sponsoring the Memorial Day Parade this year in the North Hammond area. They're asking that if you're interested in being in it, to contact Larry Ventress at the club at 219-933-9823. The parade will be Monday, May 29th. Kickoff of the parade will be at 10 a.m. On Goslin, near Cavalier and the old roller dome. Again, call Larry Ventress, 933-9823, if you would like to participate. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other communications? Just for information, Hessville HC3 will be having the St. Patty's Day Parade on St. Patrick's Day. It'll go from 6:30, goes from Harding to down 165th to Kennedy Avenue North to to the end there before the bridge. Be our first ever Twilight St. Patty's Day Parade. Any other communications? Any other communications? Communications closed. Committee reports.
Mr. President.
Councilman Warple.
Capital Improvement Board met on Wednesday, February 22nd. Under new business, a funding allocation for the Chicago Street Phase 2 change orders 6 through 10 to the Indiana Department of Transportation was approved for $10,445.57. Funding allocation for general engineering services for First Group in the amount of $50,000 was approved. That's their annual retainer. A funding allocation for supplemental design services for state line street closures to First Group in the amount of $12,000 was approved. And a funding allocation for supplemental design services for 165th and state line improvements to First Group in the amount of $19,000. Councilman Emerson did attend and did inquire about the street repaving he had requested, and do you have an update? I forgot what they told you, Councilman. Was it they put them on the list and we're waiting for funding on that or something?
Yes, Councilman Warple, they're on the list, and I also commented on State Line and 165th. It's been an eyesore for years, and I'm glad that we're seeing some movement on that.
Thank you. And that was the Capital Improvements Board. Under Parks and Recs, I attended the Park Board meeting, and other than approval of permits and certain fees for rentals, there really was no projects that are on the agenda or anything like that. So other than that, that's the two committees I was on.
Thank you.
Mr. President.
Councilwoman Vaness.
Yes, I'd like to announce the upcoming Community and Crime Watch meetings. Edison Community Watch will meet Wednesday, March 1st, 6:30 p.m. at Edison School. Harrison Park Crime Watch will meet Tuesday, March 7th at the VFW on Homan Avenue. That begins at 6 p.m. The Hessville Crime Watch will meet on March 16th at the Gene Shepherd Center, beginning at 6 p.m. Irving Community Watch will meet Friday, March 3rd, 9:15 a.m. at Irving School. This is a bilingual program. And the Whiting-Robertsdale Crime Watch will meet Thursday, March 9th, 6:30 p.m. at Calumet College. As always, I'd like to urge anyone who would like to know what's going on in your neighborhood to attend one of the community or crime watch meetings. And by all means, if you just feel like something is not right, call 911. They would much rather, our police officers would much rather come out to a 911 call and find that nothing has happened. So please utilize that service, because community is not just about me, it's about us. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilwoman Vaness. Any other committee reports? Any other committee reports? Committee reports closed. Next up, introduction of ordinances. Excuse me, ordinances third reading. Councilman Kowinski. Councilman Kowinski.
Council as a whole will be bringing out 23-06.
Oh, okay. We'll also be bringing out the other, but there's no other committees.
There were no committee.
So that was committee reports. So now up is ordinance, third and final reading.
Councilman, Mr. President, how many ordinances we have coming out?
4.
Are those all coming out of council as whole? Weren't they assigned?
There were no
Okay,
committee
all right. I'm sorry.
That's
My bad.
There's 4 of them, yes.
There was only one in the committee, right? Yeah.
2303, 04, 05, and 06. First up, 2303, an ordinance to appropriate funds from the operating balance from the Hammond Park Department.
Mr. President,
Councilwoman Vines.
yes, I move for final passage of 2303.
Motion,
Second.
Councilwoman Vines, second by Councilwoman Alexander. Any discussion?
Mr. President,
Councilwoman Vines.
this is an ordinance that we do annually, appropriating from the operating balance $446,000 in this particular case. And the funds will be appropriated to various events throughout the city.
Thank you. There's been a motion, a second. Any other discussion? Any other discussion? Any discussion? Roll call?
Alexander,
Yes.
Spitali.
Yes.
Vines,
Yes,
Kalwinski. Torres,
Yes.
Tyler,
Yes.
Emerson,
Yes.
Warple,
Yes.
Rakos.
Yes. 2303 passes 9-0.
Ordinance 23-04, sponsored by Councilman Tyler. An ordinance creating a new fund, Fund Number 2474, and to appropriate funds within the Parks Department for the Harrison Park Restoration Project Grant.
Mr. President,
Councilman Tyler.
I move for third and final passage of ordinance 23-04.
Second.
Been a motion by Councilman Tyler, seconded by Councilwoman Alexander. Any discussion?
Mr. President,
Councilman Tyler.
just to reiterate, this ordinance is creating an additional fund, a new fund, for us to be able to accept a grant that we received for restoration of Harrison Park, as well as to appropriate our own monies into that fund as this is a matching grant. So excited to see this happen, as Harrison Park is in need of a lot of significant upgrades. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Any discussion? Any discussion? Roll call.
Alexander,
Yes.
Spitali.
Yes.
Vines,
yes,
Kalwinski. Torres,
Yes.
Tyler,
Yes.
Emerson,
Yes.
Warple,
Yes.
Rakos.
Yes. Passes 9-0. Next up, 2305.
Sponsored by Councilwoman Vines. An ordinance to appropriate funds in the hotel, motel, innkeeper's tax fund for the Hammond Park Department.
Mr. President,
Councilwoman Vines.
I move for final passage of 2305.
Second.
A motion is second by Councilman Vitale. Any discussion?
Mr. President,
Councilwoman Vines.
this is appropriating funding from the operating balance innkeeper's tax to the hotel motel fund in the amount of $16,593.20.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Any discussion? Any discussion? Roll call.
Alexander,
Yes.
Spitali.
Yes.
Vines,
Yes,
Galwinski. Torres,
Yes.
Tyler,
Yes.
Emerson,
Yes.
Warple,
Yes.
Rakos.
Yes. Ordinance 2305 passes 9-0.
Ordinance number 23-06, sponsored by Councilman Kalwinski. An ordinance vacating an approximately 1,242-foot portion of the street in the 27-2800 blocks of Eggers Avenue and Elder Avenue, and approximately 488 portion of street in the 1400 block of 127th and 128th streets, and approximately 1242 portion of a north-south alley in the 2800 blocks between Eggers and Elder Avenues in the city of Hammond, Lake County, Indiana.
Mr. President,
Councilman Kowinski.
I move for third reading and final passage for 23-06.
Second.
The motion by Councilman Kowinski, second by Councilman Warple. Any discussion?
Mr. President,
Councilman Kowinski.
this is a housekeeping ordinance. The streets, Eggers and Elder, were platted many years ago. They are currently on Lost Marsh property, no intention to build. Consequently, we're removing this out of the picture. Thank you.
Thank you. Any discussion? Any discussion? Any discussion? Roll call.
Alexander,
Yes.
Spitali,
Yes.
Vines,
Yes.
Kalwinski, Torres,
Yes.
Tyler,
Yes.
Emerson,
Yes.
Warple,
Yes.
Rakels.
Yes. Passes 9-0. 06.
President Rakels, that concludes the ordinances for final passage.
Thank you. Next up, introduction of ordinances.
Item A, ordinance number 23-07, sponsored by Councilman Spitali, an ordinance to appropriate funds in the Hotel Motel Innkeepers Tax Fund for economic development purposes in 2023.
Mr. President,
Councilman Spitali.
move for first and second reading of the council as a whole, and a public hearing set for March 13, 2023 at 5:15.
Second.
A motion and a second. Councilman Spitali and Councilman Emerson. Now, we're going to have council as a whole committee meeting at 5:15 on 2307,
Correct.
and a public hearing at the regular council meeting, right?
Yes.
A motion and a second. Any discussion?
President,
Councilman Spitali.
it's sponsored for the ordinance for annually and appropriate funds in the Hotel Motel Innkeepers Tax Fund for Economic Development. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Any discussion? Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Passes.
Item
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Item B, ordinance 23-08, sponsored by Councilman Spitali. An ordinance amending fund number for federal year 2021 Justice Assistant Grant programs awarded to the City of Hammond Police Department.
President,
Councilman Spitali.
first and second reading, refer to council as a whole. The meeting set for March 13th at 5:15, please.
Second.
A motion and a second by Councilwoman Alexander. Is there any reason for a public hearing on that?
We will be moving funds around. We will be from 2472 fund to 2475 budget. That's the funds to the JAG program. Yes, be moved around.
Okay, and we'll do the public hearing at the regular meeting.
Yeah, there was a public hearing for that.
Okay. There's a council as a whole at 5:15, public hearing at 6 o'clock on 2308. The first and second, any other discussion? Any other discussion? Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Ordinance number 23 dash, no, I'm sorry, that's the one we just had. 23-09, sponsored by Councilman Spitali. An ordinance appropriating the proceeds of the annual action plan and dealing with other matters pertaining to the expenditure of the plan proceeds for program year 2023.
Mr. President,
Councilman Spitali.
move for first and second reading. Public hearing set for March 13th, 2023, and council as a whole also on this, please.
Second.
Been a motion by Councilman Spitali, second by Councilman Emerson. For a public hearing on 313 and a council as a whole meeting for 23-09. Any discussion?
President, this is to authorize the staff to apply for 2023 CDBG funds for the Department of Housing and Urban Development.
Thank you. Yes. Any other discussion? Any discussion? Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes first and second reading. All right, next up, resolutions.
Item A, Resolution 23R-01, sponsored by Councilman Spitali. Resolution of the City Council of the City of Hammond authorizing the filing of an annual action plan application and designating signatories for payment voucher on letters of credit for the 2023 annual action plan programs.
Mr. President,
Councilman Spitali.
move for final passage of 23R01.
Second.
Motion by Councilman Spitali, second by Councilwoman Venez. Any discussion?
Mr. President, the resolution is to apply for the grant for the funds that we had just talked about on 2308. 09, excuse me.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Any other discussion? Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Gotta have a point of
Need a
order.
vote on that?
Yes.
Need a roll call.
Roll call.
Alexander,
Yes.
Spitali,
Yes.
Venez,
Yes.
Kalwinski, Torres,
Yes.
Tyler,
Yes.
Emerson,
Yes.
Warple,
Yes.
Rakels.
Yes. Passes 9-0. 23R1.
President Rakels, that concludes the reading of the resolutions.
Thank you. Any new and unfinished business?
Mr. President.
Councilman Kowinski.
Thank you. Pulaski Park Neighborhood Association will hold its monthly meeting tomorrow, Tuesday, the 28th at 6:30 at the Hammond Mohawk location at 141st and Calumet Avenue. One other thing is, I want to announce that Bishop O Institute's ice hockey team was in the state tournament in South Bend this weekend that just passed. They won all 3 of their games, and they are now going to play one more game next week in Evansville for the 3A state championship. Good luck, Bishop O. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other new and unfinished business? Any other new and unfinished business? Any other new and unfinished business? Unfinished business is closed. Next up is public expression. Does anybody want to comment for public expression that hasn't signed the sheet? Okay. Just to remind everybody, the format is for 3 minutes. First up is Ken Rosick.
Greetings, Council, President, councilmen and women. Heading into mid-century, we need to move more towards innovative, smart development that does not destroy the very thing which makes Hessville special. New homes, businesses, and infrastructure need to be built in locations that make economic and social sense to preserve the best qualities of our neighborhood. The good things in our town need to be accentuated, not destroyed. Wonderful places that bring our community numerous benefits, seen and unseen, need to be preserved. Natural places like our dune woodlands, a unique geological treasure, 4,700 years old, could very well become the envy of most American cities. Thousands of native trees, many well over 100 years old, need to be treated with respect and nurtured. They are living things that buffer us from some of the most harmful elements in our heavy industrialized urban environment. They protect us from heat, noise, pollution, and flooding, and should not be touched. As we plan for the future, our town must keep accessibility as a priority and not just for cars. Designing towns only for cars is old news and has proven to be counterproductive. It leads to a more sedentary way of life. That is a mid-20th century mindset 100 years in the past. Mobility for pedestrians should be our #1 priority. At no time should we make it more difficult to get around on foot. Closing railroad crossings that will block pedestrians is a bad idea and only benefits the railroad. It is the exact opposite of direction of what most forward-thinking, prosperous towns are doing in the 21st century. Innovative thinking is the way to go. Engineering of the past few decades has made what seemed impossible before more practical today. It is now just as easy to go under rather than over obstacles. It takes less material and manpower to construct an underpass, and it takes up a lot less space. Only a block or so is needed, as opposed to a half-mile-long road. It takes imaginative design and community involvement. We need to abandon century-old thinking by outsiders that dictate to local residents rather than include them in problem-solving. People do not want to live in a concrete jungle void of natural living things and animals. Let's nurture the soul of our town and make Hessville a better place to live. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, George Stoya. Okay, passes. Next up, Linda Anguiano.
Hello, council members and President Rakos and all you out there in TV land. I first want to say I've missed these meetings. I've had some illnesses, but I'm glad to be here. And the first thing I wanted to do was to thank Pedro P. Torres for framing the resolution that this council passed last year. It was in late November, I believe, early December. And the COSECHA members could not be here due to family obligations, but I'm going to be receiving that on behalf of COSECHA from Pete, and that was for the driver's cards for the undocumented workers or residents of Indiana. And COSECHA did go down to Indianapolis again, and it's still an ongoing, I want to say battle or fight, but it's ongoing work. And several major cities in Indiana have passed resolutions, like Hammond did, so thank you. And hopefully these people who often, the microphone went dead. You can? Okay. So these people who often, it takes them 8 to 10 years to get anywhere near a green card, they're not here. I hear it now. They're not just squandering their time. It just takes a long time to get through that whole legal paperwork. So I appreciate that. And I also wanted to say, I saw a newspaper headline. It was another town in this area. I don't know if it was Illinois or Wisconsin, but an adult was killed trying to cross the tracks. So this is an ongoing problem around the country. I had some notes about the incidence of accidents, but I was caught up in a meeting and I couldn't grab those notes of mine. It's very dangerous with these tracks. You know, a train will be there, somebody thinks it's safe, and a train comes from the other direction. Kids, we know, think they're invisible, they can be reckless. We need to do all we can to protect our children. I personally don't have any kids, but I worry about these other kids. I see them coming out, pouring out of Scott Middle School and Morton High School, and waiting for the train that crosses Grand, or waiting for the train that crosses 173rd. I just think we all need to revisit this area. Previously, I said that I think we could have a win-win situation, a win-win solution, and the mayor, he vehemently argued with me after I said that. We can have an underpass. There's a beautiful one, I guess it's Munster. It's a beautiful one in West Lafayette that won an award. And it looks very attractive. It goes under the tracks, and there's sidewalks with guardrails on both sides for the people, whether it's a student or an elderly person or a person who can no longer drive, to walk under the train. So that I will keep beating the drum, and this group is not going to give up. We are going to fight till the end. Thank you.
A motion to adjourn?
Make a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn, Councilman Alexander. Want a second? Meeting's adjourned.